Okay. Oh, hi. You are unfamiliar with me. My name is Jordan. And 10 years ago, I was given a vision for both how humanity could evolve in the best possible way and in the worst possible way. Now, this experience was so intense for me that I've devoted the last 10 years of my life and will devote the rest of my life to the pursuit of making real the evolution of humanity in the best possible way. This journey has led me to dismantle everything I once thought was real. You know, my identity for one thing, and reality itself. I wanted to discover the mystery of how at everything's baseline is there energy, yet it presents itself in all of these different manifestations. And I wanted to understand, how do I interact with whatever this is? How do I either move through reality, or does it move through me? It led me to becoming a subconscious reprogramming expert, an advanced theta healing practitioner. I led a meditation group for a couple of years, worked at one of the most advanced um, healing clinics in Canada, and am bringing to life through these videos this vision that I have been given. Now, this one in particular has been on my mind for quite some time now. But if I'm being completely honest, I have been afraid to create it because of the potential repercussions. Now, I gave you a bit of a backstory of where I've come from. I didn't tell you I was born and raised in Parry Sound, Ontario, this quiet town by the water. More than happy to open up about all that too, but perhaps in a different video. What I'd like to present to you now is my intention for this message. I truly know that when a person reaches a level of self-awareness which is beyond the control of fear, what happens to that person is they become self-governing. They become so connected to life in its entirety. Now, I'm not coming to you and saying that I'm some sort of enlightened guru, but I'm certainly not going to discredit the knowledge and wisdom I have gained through the past 10 years of relentlessly dismantling myself and reality. And there's more videos where I've talked about some of the depths at which I have gone to see and feel the truth. If you want to check those out, you are, of course, more than welcome. Now, in that realization of self-governance, in that realization of deep connection with life, there is so much love and so much freedom, which is the same as true love, that is to be felt. You realize you no longer need government. You realize you no longer need reliance on so many of these things that we see in our world, which are poisoning our minds, bodies, and souls. And again, perhaps I'll go deeper into it in this video, but I've made many videos on my channel where I go more deeply into all of this. So I just want to make it clear that my intention is strictly for the purpose of awakening others to a greater love within themselves. That is my only intention. Now, the way I might approach it, it may ruffle some feathers. I may not say things perfectly, but I hope that having heard my intention, regardless of how I may come across, you understand that this is what I am trying to do. So, a message to the conscious Black community. Firstly, I owe you gratitude. It is because of hip hop that I've been able to reach this point of awareness and this point of willingness to act upon what I know, at least in a significant percentage of what has influenced me. The guru of Gangstar was like a guiding light for me. And so, I just want to say, before I get into the meat of what I'm here to discuss, I do just want to give you more of a background of how I've perceived reality in my youth and into a certain point of my adulthood, because I want to build the stage for how people are perceiving each other on a mass scale. So, I grew up with a father who wasn't in the home. I saw my father every second weekend and in the summertime. And I know many people, and I'm not just saying this to the Black community, many people don't get to grow up with a father at all. I kind of got stuck somewhere in between with that, of always wanting him and never having enough of him. And so in my youth, I sought masculine mentors. I sought those sort of role model figures that I could look up to in the absence of my father. And as I was growing up, hip hop was becoming more and more dominant in the mainstream. And, traditionally, men have been warriors. Men have been great philosophers. Men have been imposing figures, powerful, ferocious at times, whether that be through physicality or intellect. But a man would stand confidently in what he speaks. This is how I perceived a man. A man was in shape. A man was disciplined. A man had status. A man was respected. So, wanting these role models for myself, having this perspective of what a man should be, shaped by Hollywood, shaped by other people, shaped by all this stuff. Not that those aren't great traits to have anyways. But if you truly understand the impact that hip hop has made in the world, you understand that it drives the culture of today's youth, of most of the world. Hip hop is that powerful. Consider it like this. Not everybody watches basketball, but I can guarantee you that there are more people within the basketball realm that listen to artists like Kendrick Lamar versus Drake. I bet you that beef was bigger than was bigger than any sports event, really. Because at the end of the day, the people who are playing the game are going home and listening to these people who are shaping the consciousness of those who listen to them. If you understand what I'm trying to say, I'm not sure I explained that very well. Hip hop is a cultural phenomenon, and the person who sits at the top is directing the minds of the youth. And as hip hop was coming up, in its original form, hip meaning to be in the know, hop to be a movement, it literally was a movement of knowledge, of consciousness. And so I got into it at the point where that was really who reigned supreme, was the artist who was self-aware, was worldly aware, wasn't just talking about violence and sex and drugs. And sure, that was around, but it wasn't at least who was most popular where I was. And I distinctly remember I was in the car with two of my friends. We were coming back from McDonald's, and Above the Clouds came on. I was in the back seat. And as soon as I heard that instrumental, my life changed forever. It was like I had awakened again to that there is something more. There's a greater level of music, of frequency, because that's what it really is. Like, to be able to write what the guru wrote, so profoundly spiritual, so profoundly wise, to combine it with DJ Premier, it's like, for example, when I make a song on my guitar, I'm speaking from the deepest point of wisdom that I've reached up until that point in my life. And therefore, what is channeled through the instrument is a match to the words that want to be spoken. So the frequency aligns itself. And, oh, I gotta pause this. So, okay, I'm getting a little too deep into the metaphysics here. It's not the point of this video. Just anyways, when I was growing up as a young man, hip hop artists, the black man was the dominating figure of masculinity to me. And for most of us, no matter what color of skin you have. And, what am I trying to say here? There is a certain amount of conditioning that takes place in our youth that then shapes the way that we perceive reality, therefore, in the future. And so I grew up in a confusing time because the news was still a lot more popular. I was seeing black men as sort of this pinnacle of masculinity shaping the culture of the world, while at the same time watching the news say that black people are murderers and they're drug dealers, and being programmed by that perception as well, and then having it reflected back in the world of hip hop by certain artists, which created this subconscious layer inside of me to perceive black people as being dangerous. And I'm sure that if you ask yourself right now, if you have any conditionings towards the perception of a white person, are they all positive? And this is a place to explore what is there. It doesn't matter if it comes up and it's something bad. The point is, are you willing to become curious enough to find out what is within you? Because if you do not become curious and discover what it is that's creating how it is that you perceive another person, we must understand that all of reality is simply a reflection of ourselves. So how we are viewing that person is actually how we view ourselves in a regard. So if I'm going out and I'm viewing black people as violent, animalistic, non-intellectual, even if my conscious mind looks at the guru from Gangster and thinks, oh my God, this guy is brilliant, I love this guy. Underneath that, there has been an attachment to his skin color which says, but he's violent and dangerous and don't get too close. And the don't get too close part is really what this conversation is all about. All of us, it doesn't matter where you're from, have gone through the same kind of conditioning to perceive groups of people in certain ways rather than viewing them as extensions of who you are, which is the ultimate truth. You can only experience this reality if you are consciously aware of it. As soon as you go to sleep and your consciousness shuts off, you're no longer experiencing reality. But we don't actually experience sleep, do we? We only experience the next moment of awareness, as though it's a seamless transition. There's one moment where things kind of fade to black but you're back. Because the only way that you can experience this is if you are conscious. Which is to say that all of this is an aspect of awareness. It's an aspect of consciousness, which is what you are, which is what everything is. It's all the same thing. So as soon as we begin to perceive things as being separate from us, as being outside of us, as being dangerous, as being things we don't want to get too close to, we are then welcoming in exactly the state of the world right now. And yes, there's a huge conversation to have. Well, if somebody's pointing a gun to your head and they're telling you they're going to pull the trigger, is that not a dangerous, violent situation? And I mean, there's an argument to that too. Life is completely your decision. Your perception is completely your decision, so long as you have freed yourself from your belief system, which will create your perception for you if you do not know what it is that is with inside of you. You could perceive that situation through the eyes of pity for another. Because to be able to pull a gun out to the thing that is yourself, and to even kill that thing, is to kill yourself. And to want to kill yourself is the lowest state of consciousness that exists. To take another's life is to kill yourself. It is the lowest state of consciousness that exists. Now, really, this is the main part of the conversation that I want to have. This is what it really is coming to a place where we stop perceiving you as a black person and me as a white person solely for the sake of the identity that comes along with whatever that is. You can perceive that we have different skin colors, obviously. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, why can't you view me as a brother? Why shouldn't you view me as a brother? And why shouldn't I view you as a brother or a sister? We are one and the same. We are a family from the stars. Regardless of if you're from another planet, you are still an aspect of this consciousness which creates everything, including you. It's all the same. But look at what's happened to the world. Look at how divided things are, even still with apparently all of this progressive evolution. We are still extremely divided. And I'm not looking to speak to the people who aren't ready for this message. I want to talk to the people who genuinely want revolution of everything, revolution of consciousness to be exact. The people who are willing to examine reality for what it is, the truth of what it is, who are willing to explore themselves and free themselves from whatever it is that's lurking inside, which creates danger for them in this life, which separates them from the rest of us. I was having a conversation with somebody close to me, and I told them that I wanted to make this video. And I told them, and I want to forewarn you that this may be triggering, but please remember my intention. And I genuinely am doing my very best to say this in the nicest way, through the deepest love I can. I told this person that I wanted to make a video addressing the word nigger, and even the word nigga. And I said this to them, and they immediately reacted with terror. And they didn't understand. Why do you want to make this video? You know how dangerous it is. You know that people have been killed for this. You know that people get their ass beat for this. And I said, I understand. But it's worth more to me to be the man who is willing to say we need to address the attachments we have to this word. Because I didn't make the video yet. I just told them that I had this idea. And their reaction was, oh my God, please don't make it. They were terrified. Is that the kind of reaction that we should be holding on within ourselves at all times? Because that attachment is there, whether you are thinking the word, saying the word, hearing it from somebody else or not. That word is always going to be there with those attachments attached to Black people. Do you deserve that? Do you deserve to forever be perceived as that? Look at how afraid the world is to say it. Is that really what we want? How could we possibly create a utopia, a true, genuine utopia if the entire planet is afraid to speak a word? And if there are those who enforce the fear of speaking the word, just like how the government of the World Economic Forum, the UN, all of these people who are in so-called positions of power, the banking families, the pharmaceutical industries, the agricultural industries, the et cetera, et ceteras. It's the exact same thing when they enforce their policies, when they enforce their rules upon us, that we cannot be free. We must be enslaved to them. Otherwise, we're met with intense resistance to the point of death, like Charlie Kirk. Now, that name might even be triggering to people too, and I'm going to make this very clear. I've seen some of his videos. Am I a supporter of his? Couldn't say that. Don't know his content well enough, but I certainly do support the fact that he was a human being. And he was sharing what he thought was right. He was willing to have difficult conversations. Is that what should happen to people who are willing to have those difficult conversations? Not gonna lie, after I heard he got assassinated, and I don't know the whole story, there's a whole bunch of conspiracies out now, but if we're going with the narrative where he was assassinated, I'm not gonna lie, that really scared the shit out of me. Because where I speak from is not for the sake of a political party, but the complete dissolution of that idea. I speak from the place of realizing self-governance, which would do away with all of these industries killing everyone, which would do away with the political world. And no, I'm not some sort of extremist anarchist. What I'm suggesting is realizing what you really are, which no politician throughout all of time, at least to my knowledge, has done. True, genuine self-awareness. So I wanted to raise the issue of the attachments that we hold to this word, that we're holding to each other. Because then placed within your subconscious, placed within your nervous system, is this trigger waiting to be pulled, waiting to say that your life is in danger, waiting to say that you're not good enough, waiting to say that you're unlovable. And it's not the truth, and it's not what any of us deserve. My hope is that by continuing to share these messages, by sending this out into the world, that the right people will see it, and the people who understand will want to meet for the sake of this revolution of consciousness, this revolution of love, and do away with these attachments which keep us at gunpoint within ourselves. I certainly hope that what happened to Charlie Kirk does not happen to me. I'm merely at the beginning of my journey, but it is a fear I have to work through. And that's just it. This is the final thing I will say in this message. Life comes down to choices. In every moment, you are presented a fresh opportunity to choose something different than you have been. With that realization comes the necessary pairing of knowing what you are choosing between. And there are only two things from which to choose between: fear or love. In response to this message, whether back to me or within yourself, what will you choose?